Good evening and welcome to Bronx Talk. Tonight we're going to talk about the most effective ways to teach reading in our schools and how to train teachers to use those methods. Unfortunately, a significant number of students, particularly in early grades, are not reading at grade level. In fact, this year, the National Assessment of Educational Progress showed that 69% of New York's fourth graders are not reading at grade level. And as you might expect, those numbers are even worse for students from economically disadvantaged communities. Tonight's guests support an innovative methodology in teaching reading that's different from what had been used in our public schools until 2023. It's a technique called the science of reading, a process that systematically teaches foundational phonics instead of what is called whole language, a system that de-emphasizes phonics in favor of word recognition. And the question of tonight is how best to prepare the teachers to teach our kids the most effective ways to get them to read. So please join me in welcoming the founder, president of the Reading Institute and associate professor at Brooklyn College. It is Dr. Katie Pace-Miles. Nice to have you with us. Thank you for joining us. And she probably didn't count, but she's making her 6th appearance on Bronx Talk. A former chancellor of the city's public schools who's currently a visiting senior fellow at the Center for Educational Innovation is Dr. Meisha Porter. Dr. Porter, always nice to see you.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. Dr. Miles, let's just start with you. The science of reading methodology that changes the way children are taught reading using phonics is what I just said, instead of whole language that emphasizes word recognition. So what is the theory at work here? What wasn't working and why does this work?
So one of the important things to know about the science of reading is that it's actually a body of research, and it comes out of the cognitive psychology, neuropsychology, educational psychology, that realm. And it's a body of experimental, quantitative research. It's quite rigorous, and it shows how we develop the ability to read, why some children, some individuals have difficulty learning how to read, and it shows what instructional approaches are most effective for all populations of students. And this has been woefully missed in teacher preparation.
Yep.
And that's because it really hasn't been a part of teacher preparation, and professors of education that are in teacher prep programs, they weren't trained themselves in this approach because it really lives in the psychology realm.
So let's just take a word. I was going to use Bronx Talk, but I don't want to do that. Let's take the word bicycle. Okay, so there's the word bicycle. We all know how it's spelled, B-I-C-Y-C-L-E. And in the past, you would take that word and you'd show the child and you'd sound out the B and the I and then say bicycle and want them to recognize the letters. Right, I'm learning this all along the way with all you folks, right? And recognize the letters.
Great student.
Why, I'm trying. Why doesn't that work as well as doing the phonics for it?
Well, what's interesting is the three of us here, we may have learned it that way because what you're actually referring to is a grapheme phoneme connection, which is a letter to sound connection. And you would move through that word in a systematic way to decode that word. You decode each sound and then blend it together to read the word bicycle. That's what we're coming back to in the science of reading. What we had been doing in schools for about 20 years, Meisha, or so, is whole language, where we were showing students the word bicycle and we weren't saying, let's break it down letter by letter.
I see. So I unwittingly did that.
Yes.
I see.
Yes.
And explained it better. Dr. Porter, this was, and you know the history of our education system as well as anybody. It was implemented in 2023. How widely is it used now? And it's not easy, I'm assuming, to rewrite teaching methodology that's been in place for generations. So is this what supposedly they're doing in schools now?
This is what they are, and I give credit where credit is due. Chancellor Banks made this a priority of his administration. Chancellor Ramos Aviles continues that work and knows how important it is. And across New York City, schools are implementing the science of reading as the foundational literacy work. teachers are being trained in the science of reading. And so this is not one of those things that the system just said it was doing. It's happening every day. Actually, in the last 2 weeks, leaders and teachers have been in training this summer preparing to deepen their practice. So it is happening.
Who does that training? And because that's part of what this dialogue is about.
Yeah.
And is the training effective, or we're going to talk about really doing it effectively?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Katie, my friend Katie here, and I, we both agree. Part of this work has to be the responsibility of institutions of higher ed that prepare teachers, right? That has to be, we were part of the Reading Institute's work and really worked to think about how that lives in institutes of higher education. Dr. Miles is one of those people who's been a real practitioner at that level. So that is one part of what's important. Who's doing it in our schools? It's partners like Katie, it's partner organizations across the system, it's curriculum companies who have experts. And frankly, I just want to give credit to the educators in New York City public schools, the educational...
You noticed that I smiled when you said that.
Yeah, absolutely, because, definitely. In New York City public schools, there's a vast level of expertise. Dr. Danica Rux, who's leading school supervision, the work lives at New York City public schools, and so I think the external partners have been helping them to build their capacity, but there's expertise in the system to deepen the work.
I hadn't really thought about, because I've been looking through the materials that you have and what you folks are doing. I hadn't thought about what you raised, and that was the idea that higher ed, the teaching programs need to do this. So is New York City the only one that does this? And then my concern would be a lot of teachers don't necessarily go to college in New York City. New York City teachers don't, they could go just about anywhere. Is this generally understood through the national education programs that this is what it needs, or is this the beginning? We start everything in the Bronx. Is this the beginning of telling the world this is what you guys have got to do?
We're at the beginning, I would say.
We're at the beginning, so we really need to get it out there.
We really do. COVID elucidated this issue of, it was really parents watching instruction through Zoom. And they were saying, wait, my child is struggling to learn how to read, and now I'm watching the instruction, and the instruction is not systematically teaching them how to attack words and decode words. And I do want to give a caveat here that the science of reading includes all aspects of reading.
Yes.
So it's both decoding and comprehension, vocabulary, fluency, all of it.
Yep.
Well, you need all those elements if you're going to teach somebody to read.
The ultimate goal.
And whatever level they're at.
Yeah, and I think the important thing, I'm sorry to cut you off, but is what we've done now, what the system is now doing is saying, we're not deciding that one part of teaching literacy is how we're going to teach literacy. We're recognizing, like you did, you are our greatest student today, that to develop a literate society, to build literacy skills, students need the entire body of work, and teachers need to know how to teach to them that way.
So then let's go back to the Reading Institute. That you have a 10-hour Science of Reading intro course. Why don't you just talk about the Institute and what this can provide for teachers? And frankly, we're going to talk about parents and home as well, but let's start with the teachers and what do you do?
So at the Reading Institute, we develop 10 hours of professional learning for teachers. We want schools to have an affordable option to get every teacher in their school on the same page about what the science of reading is, the fact that we hit on a few points here, what it encapsulates, which is the ultimate goal of reading is comprehension, understanding what you're reading, but we have to back ourselves into that, and this starts in pre-K and kindergarten, goes all the way up through high school.
Absolutely.
So this Science of Reading Micro is this 10 hours, again, it gets teachers on the same playing field around what we're talking about. From there, the Reading Institute also has 2 reading intervention programs, Reading Ready and Reading Go. We give these reading intervention programs to CUNY, and they run CUNY Reading Corps. We give them to New York City. Excuse
me, CUNY for the people learning to be teachers.
Yes, exactly. CUNY for pre-service teachers. I use these programs in my courses as a professor at Brooklyn College to improve my we call them pre-service teachers or education majors, to improve their training so that when they enter into the classroom, their first day on the job, they know how to teach a child how to read. And we also give these reading intervention programs to New York City public schools. So paraprofessionals have been outstanding implementers of these tutoring programs, intervention programs.
This is really the next question I was going to ask you, Dr. Porter, because of your vast experience in the public schools. Are teachers listening, are they really ready to reform this, that they understand it's a problem? You're shaking your head, yes.
Because, you know, that's the secret. I'm sorry to all my teacher friends, I'm going to tell our secret. Teachers have been ready, and they've been doing these things.
Totally.
Teachers have not been sitting back saying, I'm only going to teach one part. Teachers have been like, all right, give me the part you want me to teach, but I know what my students need. I know my students need phonemic awareness. And so they've been doing it. This just gave them permission and gave the system an opportunity to actually increase their learning and ability to do it effectively and efficiently. And so are they doing it? Yep. They've been doing it, but they haven't had the resources and supports.
Is it too soon to evaluate where we're at?
I would say yes, I would
Maybe
say,
I should ask her too.
We'll let the research answer. I'll give you my 2 cents, not from a research-based perspective. I think that it is not too soon to evaluate. I think what we want to evaluate is teacher practice improving? Are teachers getting better at teaching literacy? And that will result in student outcomes for sure. But I think the starting point for where we are in terms of the implementation of the science of reading across the system is at a really important place. And like, no disrespect to curriculum companies who do great work and have developed great tools, it is about improving teacher practice in this space, and that will be the most important measure that's going to impact student learning.
How popular are the classes now? The classes are virtual, you bring them in, or what do we do?
Sure, so the 10-hour Science of Reading intro course is asynchronous, so any teacher, and it's free for New York City public school teachers. I want to make sure all of the teachers, principals, school leaders know that. They can go to the Reading Institute, readinginstitutenyc.org, and they can access.
And these are free programs.
Yes, the micro-credential for New York City public school teachers, we have an initiative to give it for free to New York City public school teachers. If you're outside of the system, it's a very low cost, $25, very low cost professional learning. That's a part of our mission. And in addition to that, at Brooklyn College, I have an advanced certificate in reading science. And this is for the teachers. Meisha knows many of these teachers from the system. They've been doing this reading science work. This formalizes it for them at the certificate level that's acknowledged by New York State Ed. They get this postmasters. And these teachers become our literacy leaders across the system.
You know, I would think, just listening to what you're saying and thinking about it, I would think that if you're a young person wanting to be a teacher and you hear about this, you would automatically say, yeah, I really have got to learn about this, because if I used old technology or old methods, we've already learned that they're not working. I mentioned this to you folks beforehand. I want to talk about learning at home and how this would translate. So those of us who are parents or grandparents, we learn to read a certain way, and I tried to describe it to you when I did the bicycle thing. That's probably how a lot of parents, when they say, okay, I'm certainly excited about teaching my child to read, I'm going to open the book and I'm going to show them the word and say, sound out the word butterfly, and then there it is. But now, is there something that parents can learn and parents should be doing that maybe would be more helpful than what we have been doing, us old folks have been doing for years?
I can offer 2 quick options, which are at the Reading Institute. You can go to the website, and we have a free caregiver guide that helps with emergent word reading and spelling, all kinds of activities, not workbook style at all. I'm a parent of 2 young children in the New York City public schools. I needed something fun and engaging that was also effective, so parents can download that guide for free. We also have a letter knowledge guide, so if your child is in pre-K or K and still learning their letters, absolutely developmentally appropriate, and we're going to give you some more engaging ways. That is critical in order to get to the next step. We cannot just kind of waltz past that.
Dr. Porter, we know who our students are in New York City public schools. Many of them are bilingual speakers or Spanish first speakers. Is there a way to deal with this for Spanish-speaking students as well?
Yes.
I'm assuming. I just wanted to include that
Absolutely.
because you can't talk to the people of the Bronx if you don't include that.
Absolutely.
So that works out well as well. This is what I want to do. I think this is exciting because I was very curious about this because we're doing new methods in the schools. So we have a very short video of this methodology and how it works. You can see there'll be 2 examples, not very long, but you'll be able to see exactly what they're talking about. So here we go. Let's take a look.
Watch and listen. I will say the word, and the first sound I hear, you repeat the word and say the first sound you hear. Leg. Ooh. Your turn.
Leg.
Okay, Justin, watch and listen. I will say the word, and then I will say the last sound of the word I hear. Then you repeat the word, and you will say the last sound of the word you hear. Dog. G. Your turn.
Dog. G.
And there you go. So that's basically what they do. Now, again, I'm just guessing. So if the word is longer, like I use bicycle or butterfly, then you would simply have the blocks there, but the blocks are not labeled with the letters.
Correct. So that's how we start our lessons. It's an auditory warm-up, but Meisha mentioned phonemic awareness. That's exactly it. So you're getting students attuned to words are made up of individual sounds. Those individual sounds map to letters. Sometimes they map to one letter. Sometimes they map to 2 letters that make one sound. Sometimes they map to 3 letters that make one sound. And so when you get to the words bicycle or butterfly, you're taking us to a more advanced level.
Oh, sorry.
That's great because
I didn't want to make it too simple, you know.
It's important.
A little challenging.
Yeah.
You're getting into multisyllabic word reading, and so then we would be breaking it apart into word units. Hopefully by the time we're reading the word bicycle or butterfly, we've actually been able to map certain words into long-term memory, or we've been able to map letter sound units, like the morpheme bi, that hopefully is mapped into memory. Then we can read that. We have a meaning for bi, which is 2, and so on and so forth.
Dr. Porter, I know you're a champion of early childhood education, to say the least. Like, don't tell me something I don't know. How early do you start with this? Is there a way to deal with it? Then, of course, to work with early childhood educators to deal with it? Like where is that at?
I'll tell you, my dream is for every child that's born in New York City and their family to leave with a literacy pack from the hospital. That's my dream, because literacy.
Now we know what Dr. Porter dreams about right at night. Okay.
I'm gonna call my friends Marcos and Ruben at Montefiore. We're gonna start there.
Wow.
They don't know this yet, but
well, now they do. It's not a secret.
It's awesome.
But that is how important it is to build literacy from birth, right? Like, you become a strong reader by 3rd grade because you were learning letter sounds. When you were goo goo gaga, you were actually developing your ability to develop letter sounds
through phonics, because you didn't start
exactly
reading
because you hear the voices of your parents. The first words and voices that you hear and learn to repeat and emulate are the voices of your parents. And so it's that important for us to think about the family's role in early literacy and the role that our early childhood centers and schools that do phenomenal work. The investment in those spaces is critically important. And I'll tell you one other thing about your big word. I was a principal of a 6 through 12 school. We have students who've entered high school not knowing how to read. And so this is not a skill or tool that only one set of teachers needs to have. Social studies teachers need to have these tools and skills. Yes. Math teachers, when you are in high school solving a math problem, you are doing more literacy work than you are doing numeracy work.
I mean, I had no idea. You know what's absolutely fascinating to me when I think about you know, the young people, it also builds confidence, because the challenge for some children, especially, to, you know, identify the letter, you know, B, D, G, E, whatever the letters are, can be a challenge, because it requires you know, a certain level of competency that they may not have yet. But if you have them do the sounds, they have a better chance.
Yeah.
What you suggested, I have to say, I went like this on the table, because it makes a ton of sense, because I don't mean we, but Montefiore Medical Center, or, you know, St. Barnabas, all the hospitals, they do parenting when a woman is going to have a baby, to the degree the resources allow them to do that. But this would make a lot of sense. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Meisha Porter's dream. Let's make it come
This
would really make a lot
love it.
This really makes a lot of sense. And one of the things I talk about for BronxTalk is always to help people find better ways of you know, doing these kinds of things. How can schools partner with you? So let's just say there's let's assume there is a principal or principals who are going to see this and say, you know what, I want to make sure all my teachers of every subject, not only English teachers or reading teachers, are educated in this. What can they do to participate?
Sure, so they can contact the Reading Institute, nyc.org, and they can ask for free access to the micro-credential. They can then ask to partner to bring Reading Ready and Reading Go, which are kindergarten through 2nd grade. But also we've used them in higher grade levels, because we have students that need reading interventions in older grades. They can ask for access to those programs and ask about a formal partnership. They can also advocate for expert teachers at their school. So Meisha and I know all of these incredible teachers in the New York City public school system. They should let these teachers know about the advanced certificate in reading science at Brooklyn College. It's remote. So there's scholarships for every New York City public school teacher who wants to do the advanced certificate. So you can do
this, and it's not like you know, enrolling in a higher degree that costs a fortune, etc.
Correct. It's beautifully funded by a philanthropy in New York City. I wanted equal access, because I don't want to perpetuate any of the inequities that we have in teacher advancement. So every New York City public school teacher who comes to this advanced certificate, they get a full scholarship. They just have to maintain a B or higher, which everyone is doing. And I would encourage principals to let their teachers know about that. And finally, I want to say to Meisha, Meisha's brought the reading intervention programs to the Bronx through a new partnership, so there's a community element as well.
Well, yes, I was totally.
Respond to that, and then I want to ask you something else.
Sure. So, to your question though, parents are already using it, because through our partnership and a partnership with Throughline Learning and New Settlement, we are helping to build a teacher pipeline by training parents, community members, paras, school aides in high dosage tutoring that utilizes Katie's work. The reason why we're using Katie's work is because parents in District 9 said, this works. We've gone through this training. So if you want to give us a skill and tool to help us to teach literacy, we already know the tool to use.
Do I understand this to be the tutor to teacher pipeline?
Yes.
See, I got all the in education they got all these little phrases, but that's what this is about. Dr. Porter, I want to ask you about this. The South Bronx Literacy Academy, which was created to meet the needs of students with dyslexia and other reading difficulties. These students need to be educated and dealt with and have opportunities as well. So what works in that model that might be duplicated in other places, or that other educators can learn about and say, well, maybe I want to bring this into my school?
Well, I think it is the small class sizes and the
small class
sizes and the
everybody make a note.
Yep, because we didn't know that would work. But it does, right? But I would also say, right,
again, tell me what I don't already know.
This intentional, targeted, focused approach to teaching literacy, recognizing that students with dyslexia have different needs that need to be addressed. And you say it all the time I'm here, everything great starts in the Bronx. Well, We
Reinvented
started in the
everything.
Bronx, and now they're going to Brooklyn. So the second school is opening in Brooklyn. I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud to be a member of their board. And this is what happens when you make mothers angry. Right?
I try not to. I've tried not to all my life. It doesn't always work.
These mothers who started this school, their children who are dyslexic were not getting what they needed, and they were pooling together their own resources and doing research to learn how to teach literacy.
We only have a minute left, and I'm
yep.
just dying to ask you. You are in this program now. You know, you're in the Center for Educational Innovation. This must be a joy for you because all the things you've always done and believed in, without the bureaucracy, I didn't say it, you know, right? That you're really able to do these kinds of things that really have effect.
Listen, this is probably one of the most joyful places I've been professionally, because I get to do the things that I know make a difference in the lives of our neighbors, our community members, but also in the lives of children, most importantly.
All right, so Dr. Miles, let's wrap it up then with you. What is the bottom line message for teachers, for parents, other people?
That the science of reading is accessible. So please come and join us and visit the website and partner with us. We've got great work to do. We've got great partners all over the city. Meisha and I are working together. We're open to all kinds of partnerships. We just want to make sure every teacher, every parent, every caregiver who needs it has access to help their child become a proficient reader.
One of the things that emerges in this conversation for me, which has come out of both of your mouths, is the notion of partnerships.
Yes, huge.
You talked about New Settlement, and New Settlement has always been innovative. They got that beautiful community center, but there's probably 30 organizations like that in the Bronx that could also participate. And again, they reach out, they go through the website and they reach out to you folks?
That's right through the website, readinginstitutenyc.org. We're here for anyone who needs support in New York City and beyond.
At what point will you then evaluate and say, well, what we talked about on BronxTalk is actually working? Or do we need to wait a year? Do we need to just, and is it going to be data from the schools and the reading levels, or is there some other measure that's going to be valid?
Well, when it comes to the reading intervention programs, Reading Ready and Reading Go, CUNY Reading Corps has been using them for 5 years. They have outstanding results. Meisha was talking about District 9 using them. We have 30 universities across the United States now that are using Reading Ready and Reading Go to improve teacher training.
All right, you convinced me. It works. Dr. Katie Pace-Miles, thank you for your commitment to our children.
Thank you.
And Dr. Porter, always nice to see you.
Always nice to be here.
And thank you, of course, for your commitment to the kids of New York City.
Thank you.
And the Bronx first. We're Bronx first. Yes. So that concludes the program tonight. We want to thank our producer, Rebecca Hemmick. We have a wonderful BronxNet production and editing crew. And of course, to you too, it's always about the people of the Bronx, and in this case, the children of the Bronx. We'll see you next week. Good night.